Welcome to the Audiocasters with your business besties, Karina Belizzi and Julie Lokun. In every episode, you'll get behind-the-scenes access to experts who share their struggles and successes in podcasting, publishing, and presenting. So grab a pen, grab your bestie, and kick it with Karina and Jules.
Okay, I am so excited. You know why I'm excited?
Because you're hijacking my life right now. And you're like,
Yes,
we're going live right now.
I'm
like,
hijacking your
"What?"
life. I'm taking you
okay.
live.
Yeah,
I'm
there you
Karina,
go.
and she's Julie. Wait, which direction? Here. Yeah. Oh, wait.
Whatever.
Anywho, this is exciting because I am putting Julie Lokun, our very own Julie Lokun, in the hot seat today because I'm going
Oh,
to force
jeez.
her to talk about a book that she co-authored called
Oh my God. Let
Bookcasters.
me get. Okay, let's do this.
This is called Bookcasters, an author's guide to writing a best-selling book. Now,
Who
yours,
doesn't want to write a best-selling book?
well, you have written a number within the community that I think we can talk about. But let's start
Sorry.
with this because I think a lot of people, they want to have their voices heard. They don't know where to get started. And they might have that grand idea of the book they want to write,
Mhm.
but not really have the steps or the framework in place to be able to actually execute it. And I was your trial by fire, in a way, collaborator, because I had never written a book, but you got me to sit down with you over numerous sessions and a lot of my own time and help pen the book Audiocasters. So I've in a way been through this. I used this as a guide too. And so
Oh, you did?
I did. And I made notes. And of course, there was, the notes in the margins and all that jazz too. I've also now gifted this book to a friend or 5 who are interested in writing their own books as a tool to help them on their journey. So I want to start with a simple question, Julie.
What?
What
Nervous.
inspired you to decide that it was time to create a guide for other people to write their own books?
It's funny you ask because the co-author really surprised me with this book. Her name is Nikki Pascarella. Nikki, if you're listening, then just join us. But she really did. She is my muse. She is the person that really inspired me to do this book. She started writing it, and one day she's like, "Julie, I have a surprise for you. I have this book and I need you to finish it." So she laid it out. She understands creativity. She understands how to get the momentum going so you don't give up when you're writing a book. And I kind of took it over in terms of marketing and branding the book. But I love to inspire people who are wanting to write their book, to do it the correct way. And there are so many misnomers, so many people misleading you out there in the universe that it is really important to me because, writing the book's the easy part. Keeping it alive is a challenge.
Well, I heard you say that
A lot of
a
times.
number of times.
I always say that.
Yeah.
That's my
Keeping it
thing.
alive is a challenge.
That's my thing.
Now, that being said, one of the things that we've talked about a few times, look at that, Femcasters.
It's worth a lot of money now.
It's a relic of a different era.
Mhm. We like
Okay,
the mugs.
I took my gulp of coffee. Now I'm really ready to ask you all the questions because I'm buzzing with caffeine.
Okay.
But
these are good questions.
so you are, I will just be frank here. You're such
amazing.
Yes, you are.
Beautiful, sweet, good
Amazing.
mom.
All of those things.
So
and we
are
might
you.
even hear the voice in the background now and then. I think I heard a couple shouts already.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is that you're always talking about other people's books. You invite them on, you interview them, you love to interview authors, you work to get their words into the world. But you wrote this book with Nikki months ago, and I think this is your first interview on the subject. Why?
It's because I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, I do know what I'm talking about. And you have to realize that Karina called me 2 minutes ago. She's like, "You got to jump on." Why haven't we talked about it? Because I think, believe that this book was more mission-based. This book was something that we wanted to provide for people that truly wanted to write books. It wasn't supposed to be the moneymaker that it is, or the number 1 top-selling book that it should be. It was really to offer people the tools, how to start the process and how to understand the publishing process and then how to market and build your brand. So the simple question is, we weren't out to make money, and there has been no press junket, but there will be soon. I guess this is a kickoff. Oh God, of the press junket. My
Well,
camera.
I love that. Okay. So there's a few things that I want to point out to people as you page through the book, because it's an affordable way to ultimately showcase your idea, work it out. It's written in the workbook format. So it's like an 8.5 by 11. You can easily open it, jot notes down. You're invited to think about your creative outlets. You're invited to do things differently than I expected. So there was one piece that I found really insightful from Nikki Pascarella in this
Of course,
book.
it's always Nikki. Nikki.
It
Marsha,
is.
Marsha.
She's brilliant, and so are
She is.
you. But what I
Mhm.
was getting at is, you don't necessarily think through, I think sometimes, the method of writing your book. She takes the approach of reading or writing out a single chapter as she's writing fiction in first person and then also in third person, and then deciding which method is going to be the better one to go with, given the story that you're working to tell. And I think that advice coming from someone who's written several books in the fiction space is just both well founded and it helps you exercise your chops at writing. And then, I mean, there's just a framework for even what you would pursue. Like, what avenue are you going to take? Are you going to go self publishing? Are you going to go to a publisher and write your query letter and get it out there? So, talk to me about why you made the choices to lay all of that out in the pages of this book.
It's confusing. So many authors, Karina, write a book and they don't know where to go. And there are options. There's traditional publishing, the big five, like Random House, Simon and Schuster, those sorts of huge publishing houses. And that is like almost finding a needle in a needle stack. You have to have that special something. And my kids, I didn't know I was going on live, but that's okay. It makes me real. But, authors who are writing these books, they don't know what avenue to take. And self-publishing is such an amazing gift these days with KDP and Amazon. Anyone can be an author. I mean, I see these authors that have 250 books. I'm like, who are these people? I highly doubt they have an editor. I highly doubt they've formatted the book. They're just throwing it up. You can just throw anything up on Amazon. You can say you're an author. So just disseminating the different choices you have as an author, traditional publishing, self-publishing, hybrid publishing, and staying away from those vanity presses, giving you the information to arm yourself to make the best choices for your book and how you are going to elevate the written words that you have expressed on paper.
So you have spoken about vanity presses a few
Mhm.
times on this podcast. You've said these words when we talked to,
Uh-oh.
when we
Am
spoke
I being quoted?
well, maybe. But when we spoke to Nikki and also when we spoke to Rhonda Penders
Oh,
and
yeah.
her publishing house, Wild Rose. So let's talk about how you identify a vanity press, because people might not know even what a vanity press is. Somebody might be coming to them and saying, "You have a great idea. You have this coaching business. You should write a book. Let me help you do that." What is a vanity press?
A vanity press is someone that will hold your book hostage. They are not only charging you to edit their book, and they probably don't even do a great job at editing your book, but you have to pay them an exorbitant amount of money to edit and format and get it ready for press. And then they print the book, but you have to then pay this publisher for your books. So they don't want you to be on Amazon because they know that Amazon is a space where you can get the books for cheaper. Everybody goes to Amazon to look for books. They don't put it on Ingram Spark. They don't get into the bookstores. They essentially have the rights, even though they say you own the rights, they have the rights to your book because you have to pay them to get your book, which is crazy. So really be sure and look over that contract that you are in charge of your rights, that they're going to do the things they said, that they are going to edit it correctly, get it formatted correctly. And if they have a clause in the contract that says, then we will ship you 50 books for this price, we'll give you 50 books for free, Ding, ding, ding. That is the sign of a vanity press.
Okay, so I guess this is getting to the root of the question, because I think as somebody who might not already have written a book and might not already have gone through the
Mhm.
junket themselves, they might not be able to really easily distinguish a vanity press from a traditional publisher,
Mhm.
right? You're talking about the contract. When people get into the
Right.
contract space, they might not even really know what to look for. And as we've spoken of with Rhonda Penders, contracts can
We
be
love her.
really confusing.
Shout out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to Rhonda Penders and
Rhonda.
Wild Rose Press. But it's really hard for people. So again, what are these other elements that they can look for and say, okay, this is a vanity press versus this is something that is a reputable third-party publisher, or not, sorry,
Mhm.
third-party, but not direct publishing, and not one of the, let's say, the big five, not Rodale, Penguin, Simon and Schuster. What are the
Mhm.
other two? I always hear,
Is it Hay House?
oh, Hay House, and anyway,
I could look it
doesn't
up,
matter.
but it
Yeah.
would be really weird. Right now.
Weirdly, though, Penguin even owns some conventions like New Hope Natural Media and
Oh,
all
wow.
of that. So, they get involved in other businesses as well. They're very, very big. And so, ultimately, these big guys trying to pitch your needle within the pile of needles to them
Mhm.
is very, very hard. But then there are other independent press out there like Wild Rose Press for romance novels, or like what we're doing with the Mediacasters.
Mhm.
So, how does one understand which is legitimately a traditional publisher versus one of these vanity presses? It's just there to stroke your ego and make you feel
Right.
important.
Well, if you're a traditional press, if you are pitching to traditional press, they are not going to charge you anything. They are going to do all your editing for free. By the way, you need to have the book edited before you pitch it to a traditional publisher. And this can be an indie press. An indie press is an independent publishing house. There are a lot of them. And they pay for all of that. They pay for the formatting, they pay for the cover design. But then you're giving some of your royalties. And it's different with each house, but you're giving some royalties to them and you don't own the rights to your book. There is a little bit of gravitas saying that you have been accepted by a publisher, whether a traditional publisher or indie press. So you don't pay anything for traditional press. A hybrid press, they just take the money to edit it, format it, get the cover, and then it's all yours and you can self-publish from there. A vanity press takes your soul because it takes everything. It takes your money, it takes your book, and you think you're amazing. And people get caught up on it. And what is the language? It changes. But if there's something in the clause or someone says something in terms of you need to pay for your books after they're published, that would be a big red light.
So the red flags you look out for if they're asking you for money up front and if they own the rights, right?
Right.
Okay. So, you have in this book, the Bookcasters, which I'm holding
Yes.
up now for
There
everybody
she
on the
is.
screen.
There she is. My
It's
Vanna
available
White.
on Amazon, and this book is essentially self-published, right? So that
It is.
means you retain the rights for it. You are making a little bit more money, but when you run a promotion on Amazon, you can do so at a super steep discount and make a few pennies on it. You have complete ability to dictate how it is put out there. Is that correct?
That's so correct. And Bookcasters, this book, it is essentially self-published, but we published it through our independent publishing house, the Mediacasters Publishing House, just because we can, because we're the owners, Karina,
Yeah.
Lizzie.
Well, then you can take it through Ingram Sparks if you want to get
Yeah.
it on the bookshelf in a local bookstore.
Libraries.
But for now, this is where our focus is because, as we've said, you really wanted to do it more as a service.
Yeah, service,
and get out into the world.
instructional, and for workshops. And, this book in particular is just so full of information on how to, the whole process. And we are not of the ilk of being shysters or trying to rip anybody off, but it is helpful. And I know people have really enjoyed it.
Right. Well, I'm going to point to a couple of things that are in here as tools. There are examples of query letters. So, should you write your book and decide that you want to put it in front of a traditional publisher, one of the big five, or even one of the smaller independent press, similar to Wild Rose Press, or to even the Mediacasters, you could do so without a lot of guesswork. And I think that's really what the book does for you. It helps walk you through the entire process, eliminate the guesswork. And I haven't even looked for what the price is for this book right now on Amazon, but
It's like $14.99, but I guess if you're listening to this podcast, we can give you the ebook away for free. We can put the link in the show notes.
well, why not do that? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's up to you. So for
I
any
say yes.
listeners, you say yes. Okay.
I say yes.
So for any listeners who are listening to this particular podcast, we will go ahead and put the link to a PDF download of this book so you can simply print it out at home and utilize it to your heart's content. Now, there is even some tools in here from, what is your short synopsis? How do you create it? How do you create your elevator pitch so you can talk about your book? Because as Julie said at the start of this episode, it's the work of keeping it alive that is hardest.
Keeping it alive.
Yep.
That's really hard. I mean, even traditional publishers will take a look at your online presence. They'll take a look at your social media. They'll take a look at your website. They'll see how active you are because, they cannot sell the book. Only and truly the author can sell the book. What is the psychology of buying books? People who buy, let's just say Karina's book, it's people that know her, number one. People that know her, people who have been referred to her, people that are buying gifts, and people that are interested in a certain subject. But it's typically because someone knows the reputation of the author.
Right. And authors of fiction, people develop a taste for their stories.
Yeah.
It's a different perspective, right?
Mhm.
So you want a good story. You want something that feels authentic to you, that ultimately is almost something that you could really put yourself into. I mean, that's the whole purpose of fiction. It's a little bit of escapism. It's a little bit of entertainment and so much more. You get to express your personal taste, feel connected to somebody, feel connected to the author, get to know the author. And I think that is something that is unique in a way to the power of fiction. At the same time, though, you even see these epistolary novels and journalistically written books these days that are starting to gain momentum and which might be a little bit of a blend in a way of a nonfiction approach to writing a book and a fiction approach. So you can keep your tabs, write a book that you want to write, and this can actually help get it out there. So we are going to go ahead and provide a link to anybody listening to listen or to read the book and to use it as a workbook.
Yeah, and I have some big news for you, and I haven't told Nikki this either.
Oh no.
This is good news.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
I took it upon myself to start writing a children's book this weekend or last week. So it's going to be super fun. I have an illustrator and it's going to be amazing.
Is it all about being a mom of 4 boys? No.
It's called, the working title is called The Misadventures of Hudson and Vi. It's these 2 dogs that they're actually my dog and my stepson's dog. They get lost, or they think their humans get lost, and they get to see a lot of different sites around whatever area they are. So we're going to start in Door County because I was in Door County last week and I just got inspired. And it will hopefully I know it will be a bestseller. It's got to be a bestseller.
Well, it's something that sounds like I could read to my boys or have them even read themselves, as Benedict is now starting to read to my younger son, which is
that's
lovely.
so cute.
Yeah.
Reading's so important. And let me tell you, reading has gotten lost in school systems. I'm going to tell you, my oldest son, I think he told me he never read a book in high school. I'm like, how did you graduate? They don't have to anymore. It's like they can Google stuff. It is so sad. He was my biggest reader, and my littlest. Getting them engaged in reading is really hard. So I don't know.
They'd rather watch YouTube.
Talk, video games, go outside. It's something, the lost art of reading. And I was talking to this professor who he mentioned, I was speaking to him about these trials and tribulations of a mom just trying to get their kids to read a book. And he said, you got to kind of get your mind into where they're at. Meaning, I understand that technology is just taken over. Even if they listen to audibles and they put it on 2x, just meet them where they're at as readers.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Far
we've
again.
noticed this. I mean, people buy a book, nonfiction work, and they might use it as a resource guide and kind of leaf through it and go to the sections that matter most to them. Organizing a book so that it's easy to do that with is key. You've done that with Bookcasters, which is awesome. But I do believe that there will be a resurgence in reading. It's just the swing is so dramatic that right now I think we're in this micro capsule of wanting our content in 15 seconds or less. So TikTok is exploding.
Wow. Yeah. We're dealing with a culture that has ADHD, and I'm serious about that. There's nothing more relaxing than like laying outside on a dock by the water and cracking open a book and just,
I'm getting
you
lost in
know,
the pages.
yes. Yeah. And nobody does that anymore. I mean, people do, but not like we used to do when we were kids, Karina, back in the day.
So you're saying that my kids aren't going to sit there and read Catcher in the Rye cover to cover as part of their high
Your
school
kids
curriculum.
might. Your kids are probably will. My
Maybe
kids,
they will.
Maybe they will.
I mean, I just it becomes kind of sad to me because
Mhm.
I think about those characters and those works and how much I connected with them. Like even reading Charlotte's Web as a little kid and identifying with Charlotte the spider and feeling like the natural world was opened up to me in a new way through the perspective of reading this simple work of fiction. So I'm a believer in the written word, and I think we will see a resurgence that is perhaps different than we could imagine today. At any rate,
Right.
this will help you get there.
Well,
provide a link.
we should really be just promoting and casting media with the younger generation the old-fashioned way, because they need a taste of what it's like to crack open a book and just experience the imagination of anything happening. Anything can happen within our minds, and so many people have forgotten that.
Well, I am going to finally invite my dear friend Cassie Alexander to come on the
yay.
show. I wanted to
love
share
that.
that with you
That's awesome.
because I think, in the spirit of this conversation, that she will have a thing or two to say about keeping your books alive. She
good.
has been successfully using TikTok to engage with her community, which I think is something that we could all learn from and with. And even just her personal story and bringing more of her personal self into her life as the author of her works and sharing more transparently about some of her perspectives as well. And it's showing, and she's actually doing some really great things. So I will invite people to stay tuned for that. We'll see when we can get her scheduled.
So do I get to ask you to say those 2 words or 3 words?
Oh, I'm supposed to ask you.
Oh, I didn't know I was the guest today, but I get okay.
I think
I'm
we
gonna
do
learn.
it together.
All right.
1, 2, 3.
Let's kick it. Oh, kick it.
Kick it.
What nerds we are.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Audiocasters. You can keep this conversation going and kick it with Karina and Jules in live office hours each week. Visit themediacasters.mn.co to sign up. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe whenever you listen. Let's kick it.